All right, so let's start with the big story that we're tracking on WION at this hour, where the current situation at the line of actual control in Eastern Ladakh dominated the sidelines meeting between India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and the Chinese Foreign Minister at Dushanbe. According to a readout by the Ministry of External Affairs, India has also called for resolving the remaining issues along the line of actual control in Eastern Ladakh at the very earliest. During the latest meeting, the Indian side has clearly told the Chinese side that unilateral change of status quo is not acceptable. Now, India's External Affairs Minister also pointed out to the State Councillor that the successful disengagement at the Pangong Lake area earlier this year had created conditions for resolving the remaining issues. It is also expected that the Chinese side will work with us with this objective, however, that the situation in remaining areas still remains unresolved. This, of course, is the statement that has been put out by the Ministry of External Affairs. Now, the statement issued has highlighted this, and I quote further, the External Affairs Minister also recalled that both sides had agreed that a prolongation of the existing situation was not in the interest of either side. It was visibly impacting the relationship in a negative manner. The meeting took place after more than 10 months in the aftermath of the Galwan skirmish, in which India lost at least 20 soldiers due to China's aggressive actions. Now, both the ministers last met in person on the sidelines of the SCO Foreign Ministers meeting in Moscow in September 2020. In February this year, both countries signed a pact that led to the disengagement at the Pangong Lake. While disengagement at Pangong is pretty much over, the situation in other areas such as Hot Springs and Gogra and Depsang Plains still remains the same. After the Galwan incident, India had increased scrutiny of the Chinese investments and had also banned well over 200 Chinese apps. The sentiment in the country has also turned against Beijing, an all-time high last that was witnessed in India back during the 1962 war with China. During the talks, the focus, of course, was on holding the next round of military talks. Both sides have already had a diplomatic round of talks known as the WMCC, or the Working Mechanism for Consultation and Coordination, in the month of June. All right, now to give us more perspective in terms of what this meeting on the sidelines of the SCO means, we are joined in by WION Siddhant, who is joining us live on this broadcast. Good morning to you, Siddhant. This of course, seems to be an important meeting between India's Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar and his Chinese counterpart. And India, of course, has made it stand clear in terms of what it thinks about China's attempts to try and change the status quo at the line of actual control.
Well, Mohammed, as they say, the more the thing change, the more they remain same. And this, of course, is the second meeting since September of 2020. And by and large, the situation remains the same on the ground. And that is something that the Indian side have told the Chinese side. Even though there was a pact in February that saw disengagement in the Pangong Lake region, there hasn't been disengagement at Hot Spring and Gogra. And this is something that Indian side has said that needs to be done fast. But it looks like from the Chinese side, there is no movement on the ground, and China continues to build up in that part that, of course, violates the pacts which were signed between the two countries in 1990s. But nonetheless, at the heart of the matter from the readout, it's a pretty long readout by the Indian side, is that prolongation of the entire situation is going to impact the relationship, and that is something that India has reiterated multiple times, and indeed it is impacting, whether it is investment, whether it is banning the various apps. In fact, from the Chinese side as well, we have seen they are not granting visas. That, of course, impacts the people-to-people relationship. So there is a visible tension in the relationship, not only at the political level, but also on the ground level as well. If you go around anywhere in the country or here in the capital, New Delhi, people are, of course, angry against China, first, of course, for the build-up, the crisis, the Galwan incident. That's not going to be forgotten here in India, but also because of the COVID crisis as well. Many, of course, blame China for it, lack of transparency on that issue as well.
Absolutely. Now, Siddhant, we've seen the statement that's been put out by the Ministry of External Affairs in India, but do we at this point of time know as to how the Chinese Foreign Minister has responded?
Well, we are in fact indeed waiting for the statement by the Chinese side. There hasn't been any statement as of now. We reached out to the Chinese embassy as well, but it looks like there will be a statement, maybe perhaps after a pretty long time. But I do not expect something path-breaking to be said by the Chinese. I do expect the Chinese to yet again blame Indian side and perhaps come out with similar lines as they have come out in the past. Perhaps after reading the Indian readout, they might just try to increase the tempo as well. But nonetheless, the India-China relationship have, of course, seen their worst now after the Galwan incident, and it is highly unlikely that there could be any positive steps unless, of course, Chinese side takes confidence-building measures, including moving their forces away from the line of actual control and, of course, decreasing their camaraderie with Pakistan. That, of course, remains a thorn as well, given how the Chinese side continue with infrastructure projects in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, something that India has raised with Beijing multiple times.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Siddhansible, for joining us and getting us all those updates there. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.